I reviewed 2 albums in one video yesterday. Little did you know, I was actually doing that strategically in order to review 3 albums in one video today. I'm a master. Okay, here's the difference. The difference is as opposed to it being 2 albums from 2 different bands, these are 3 albums all from the same band. Songs of the North, 1, 2, and 3, all from Swallow the Sun, all released at the same time, on the same day, in the same package. It's a triple album. Yeah. But these are 3 albums that are very individual, so I hope that you have a little bit of time. That way we can discuss each of the 3. I'll try to be brief with it, considering this is an album that's actually unlike most of the albums that I've reviewed before, where this is an experience worth taking on your own. But let's get into some little basics here and there and see what we can actually do as far as sparsing together a review score. See exactly how this mammoth actually compares to some of the other classics from 2015. So these albums are divided into 3 sections. 3 albums obviously, but 3 sections in the fact that they employ 3 different styles of music. The first disc employs more of Swallow the Sun's traditional sound, which is a mix of doomy death metal that actually fits within the same mold as, well, a lot of other bands that are within that same subsect. I know that's really, really helpful, but most folks that are viewing this know exactly what I'm talking about. Introductions of that variety are hardly necessary. But this is almost like a progressive doom sound that has a little bit more melody to it, a little bit more structure to it, and kind of, this is where Swallow the Sun's bread and butter really lies. This is what they have been doing and what they've gotten very, very good at. They've perfected the sound, is what I'm saying. And disc 1 of Songs of the North really shows that. They come out so strong on this disc. This is just, it's incredible sometimes to think that Swallow the Sun is as criminally underrated as they are. I mean, just from the very get-go of with You came the whole of the world's tears, which is a tongue twister as it stands, you start to understand that this band has come to the big leagues to play with the big boys and can easily swing with the big boys and even hit a little bit harder. Ronda Rousey got knocked out. Maybe some of conventional metal can too. This album is filled with moments such as this. Heartstrings Shattering showcases this once again. The combination between the harsh growls and the soft, clean vocals really invokes a sense of desolation, but at the same time, a sense of chaos. So that combined effort actually grants a listener a little bit of a bipolar feel, where you're kind of jutting from one side of the emotional realm to the other, all the while being floored by these little dirges that are absolutely flowing like mammoth beasts. Strange sentence, I know, but it's one that's certainly accurate. This is a sprawling album, one that motions to itself very, very slowly, but captivates all the while. That's able to really combine all of Swallow the Sun's prior strengths that they have done on albums such as New Moon and Hope, and really exhibit one step beyond. You want more proof? All you need to do is listen to From Happiness to Dust. This is a heartbreaking song that closed this record. This is one that reminds me a lot of, songs that you heard from The Mantle, from Agalloch, in order to really to close the album, such as a Desolation song. This is almost like Swallow the Sun's A Desolation song, and it's, wow. It will tear the heart right out of you. It is very, very depressing, but it is so well executed, so beautifully honored that it has such value. It could easily become your favorite off of all of these records. Now, the second album doesn't so much follow the same suit. It's more of an acoustic affair. So think about bands such as Imperium, either that or Drudka, or even the aforementioned Agalloch, that decided instead of sticking with their doom sound, they really opted to go for something that has a little bit more of a folk atmosphere to it. Now, this one's a bit different in the acoustic nature. This does still have an electric property. It's an electric acoustic that's being used, as well as other instruments in order to really propel this. But this is one that's all about a little bit more freeform exploration, a little bit more of that folk that goes alongside the doom elements, all still having that resilient charm that Swallow the Sun has been able to produce, as well as that bit of wintry chaos and wintry desolation that the band is very tailored into showing and displaying. This is one that really it grips you in a different way. It grips you in the fact that you feel the scene, you feel the setting. You feel like you are literally in a bit of a wasteland. And the instrumentals that are boasted on this album, on album number 2 from Swallow the Sun, really are one of the true highlights, even though the lyrics really add a certain layer of soul-crushing depth to everything. It's something that's really, this is something that Swallow the Sun has just sort of become very well known for, something that has become their staple. There's a lot going on in this disc. This is one where the emotional construct is constantly buried within the low, and the only time it dips anywhere above that threshold is whenever you're hearing something that's got a little bit more instrumental hope to it, which is seldom. And that's something that fits for Swallow the Sun all the better, considering they have created a trademark and a landmark feeling, a landmark emotional, gathering, and have really sacrificed a lot in order to make this one feel as though someone, whoever they're speaking about, whoever these songs are about, have sacrificed a great deal. And that desolation is incoming. That perhaps death is incoming. That perhaps we are all doomed. But then you actually get to disc number 3. Disc number 3 is the outlier, the curious one of the bunch, the Funeral Doom disc. So, even though disc number 1 boasted tracks that were nearly 10 minutes in length, this one goes one step beyond. 12, 11, 10. Might not seem like that large of a jump, but stylistically speaking, this music crawls. This is extremely slow-paced, but it fits. Strangely enough, it fits. 7 hours late, whenever you read it lyrically, you can easily tell is about a man who was tardy to see his father one final time prior to his death. But whenever you continue on with the lyricism, you start to recognize that perhaps it wasn't for the same reason that many other people are late, and many other people are tardy in order to see somebody who's about to pass away. Those sort of soul-crushing moments, those sort of real eye-opening, emotional clogs are just ever present on this disc. Even though the music itself sounds exceptionally harsh, it sounds almost as though hell itself has opened and the spawns of Satan have appeared. And maybe they're a little, slow on the uptake. They don't move very fast. But this is a soul-crushing atmosphere by its own regard, mainly because of the crawl pace. And that's what Funeral Doom is kind of all about. If you listen to any great Funeral Doom band, they'll really recognize to you that pacing is absolutely everything. Pacing is what gets you, where you need to go. And Swallow the Sun has obviously done their homework, because the pacing here really exhibits some of the classics of that subgenre very, very nicely. I feel that out of the 3, this is the disc that maybe is lacking a little bit, principally because it's not principally Swallow the Sun's bread and butter. But for an honest-to-God's first attempt, in air quotes, wow. You have to understand that going and stepping outside of your own genre and trying something new isn't always easy. And Swallow the Sun, regardless to perhaps what some of the members are doing on their own time, whether or not they're in bands that kind of exhibit this a little bit better, it's still something where you have to get back together with your core, with the actual members of your group, and attempt to replicate that. Not always a simple process. You have to give them a lot of bold credit for that. So, how do we do this? How do we even put this together? It's 3 discs. It's all the same band. It's all technically the same album. Disc 1 is a masterpiece. I'm just going to get that out of the way right here, right now. Swallow the Sun has slowly but surely been going upward whenever it comes to their trend. They've never really been a band that has given us a real stinker. And this is definitely proof. Songs of the North 1, 94 out of 100. It's a beautiful disc. It's beautifully destructive. It's beautifully depressing, but it's beautiful. Speaking of beautiful, then there's Disc 2. Disc 2's acoustic charm that's intermixed with its great instrumentals, its terrific songwriting, easily land it in the 89 to 100 range. It's one that's not quite as memorable as Disc 1, though it is memorable in its own way. Disc 3 falls off a little bit. It's one that's an 82 out of 100. They tackle this, and they do their best. And they do very well. As I said, 7 Hours Late is a tremendous song. It's one that certainly needs to, bear memory. So overall, where does this leave us? This mammoth experiment, this huge album. Where are we at? We're at about an 88 out of 100. This album, for all of its potential, really delivers. And it's sometimes very difficult to think that this sort of opus is only going to get an 88 because you're combining 3 scores. So we're not going to actually do that, because it's kind of unfair. You have to add other things into the mix. The actual score of this album that I want to give it is a 92 out of 100. The reason for this is fairly simple. To tackle 3 different styles on 3 different discs, that's an undertaking. That's a bold leap. That's a risk. So you have to give them a little bit of, points for some gusto, for having some nuts. But then whenever you get into the material itself and realize that that's also really good, that they pulled it off, that they accomplished this feat, that they somehow made an album, a trio of albums really, that border on close to 3 hours, and make it accessible, they make it listenable, as much as Swallow the Sun does that. But for somebody who's very deep into music and likes this style of music, any of these styles of music, you can go to it and you can enjoy it. You can listen to it. You don't want to stop. That's something to be marveled with as well. Like I said, some may be stronger than others. Some may have done a little bit better than others out of these 3. But that's because one style is the band. The second style is essentially the band doing something more acoustic, more folk. Imperium, Drudka, Agaluk. And then the third one, is it really all that out of character? It is a bit of a morph. It is a bit of a shift. That one there, you have to give a little leeway. So long as they pull it off, and so long as you want to continue to listen. That's a positive. So, now that leaves the final question. The question I pose at the end of every review: what did you think? What did you think of Songs of the North 1, 2, and 3 by Swallow the Sun? Did they pull this off? Because man, I sure as hell think they did. I think they pulled it off resplendently. Whew. 3 albums, 1 video. We did it. We're masters. We're the best. I can't even say that without laughing. What'd you think of this? If you want to see more like this, hit the subscribe button. I have a Patreon. If you want to see more cool stuff like this, where we do 2, 3 albums in 1 video and analyze and do all this stuff, we're going to be doing stuff on Twitch, hit up the Patreon. Anything that you give will be used toward this channel. Anything that you give will be used in order to make this better. So if quality is something that you're a little bit more concerned about, Patreon, hell yeah. We'll get that stuff updated. Quantity is something, then I can't really help you much there. I can only do what my body allows, but I'll do my best. So check it out. Links in the description below. Cover Killer Nation. I'll talk to you later.